Good morning, everyone. My name's Hank Sutalo,
And I'm Dr. K.
And I'm Jake Cunningham.
and we're here with our part 4 of relationships. Welcome to everyone. And if you didn't catch last week's show, highly recommend you go back in the archive and watch that. Jake went over these archetypes of males in relationships. And today we're going to be going over the female archetypes. And Jake, why don't you get us started?
Yeah, no, thank you for having me, Hank and Dr. K. It's a pleasure. Again, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Jake Cunningham, and I've been in the holistic health and proactive healthcare industry since really I was born. I grew up in Boulder, Colorado. My parents were a couple of hippies that turned their passions into actual entrepreneurship businesses. So I grew up in that environment, and during college, I started my own business that is helping people acquire these different technologies that help connect you to the source, to the holistic way to overcome stress, overcome illness and dis-ease in their body. Relationships is actually just I want to not say a hobby of mine, but it's something I study, and I've tried to learn from my own experiences. And last week, a quick review, we went over the 5 different archetypes for what's attracted from females to men. That how men can identify with these, learn how to use them effectively, so they're able to dictate based, of course, on what they want and what their intention is, which is the starting point of everything. But they can use these archetypes in creating the relationship and creating the passion and the attraction and the sex and the joy and the fun out of their relationships, or use it to define what you don't want when you're working with your friendships, your business partners, your other things. We talked a little bit about that. So today it's the flip side. Just to recap and let everybody know, go back and watch last episode. You'll learn more about what we're talking about. Those 5 archetypes are really lowest attraction to highest, lowest confidence to highest confidence. And what I did is I actually, from my own experiences, I didn't come up with these. These are just general themes. And these are also stereotypes. Okay, I'm going to acknowledge I'm really not about boxing people in these characteristics and things, but we can learn and identify that way easily. And for the male simple brain that I have, it helps me when I'm falling into one of these. But you have this lowest level unattractive traits of anger and fear and resentment and bullying that creep. Then next you have Mr. Nice Guy, who's overgiving, compassionate, very listening, but he will put your needs over themselves at all times, won't chase his own dreams. So very loving. And there's pros and cons to all of these. Remember, next is long-term relationship guy. This is a review of last week. That person's hardworking, committed, dedicated, a provider is going to be there. Maybe not very attractive physically, but they're going to be there to pick up Johnny from soccer practice. Next is the bad boy. The bad boy is that archetype that is sometimes overconfident, but confident, going after his dreams, spontaneous, fun, exciting. The archetype of the guy in the Harley, the rock star, the athlete, the guy who's really doesn't need you, yet when chooses you, wants to have fun and spontaneous, and there's attractive level. And then, of course, Mr. Right at the top, someone who knows how to identify with all of those and play those different roles. And that's a quick summary. But now let's talk about the other side of the coin in terms of what men are attracted to and what keeps us attracted. And there's some parallels. Now, there's differences too. Now, men, visually stimulation, we're different creatures on this amazing planet. At the same time, there's some parallels when it comes to level of attraction and confidence, and those different archetypes can be mirrored. So any questions, any clarity, comments, Dr. K and Hank, on that quick recap of what the male archetypes are. We are going to now talk about the female. And I know, we've talked a little bit about this before, but any comments before we get into those?
No, I think that encapsulated it pretty well, at least from my point of view. And I did just post in the comments, if you want to go back and look at part 3, which is the first time we had Jake on from last week, I put a link in the comments so you can go back and easily access the entire first episode.
Wonderful.
Oh, great. Yeah.
And I know Dr. K came up a couple weeks ago to do some work at my office, and this is what stimulated this when we were talking about, how we're doing and relationships and business and personal and things like this. And we realized how much there was a mirror between the two. And so let's get into those. So what's the mirror of that lowest level of the female? How men are attracted? Now, if you think of that scale, again, with confidence, but also knowing what they want, usually that person doesn't know what they want, for one
Correct.
thing. They're clueless.
Yep.
And thus, they don't know how to attain what they want. When you know what you want, you start to research, you learn with that knowledge. You have a will to do it. And then you also not just know what you want, but you learn how to get it, right? The triad of changing a habit, right? Of the why, that willpower, why it's important to you, the how, the skills, and then the knowledge of, why it's important and what to do. That's the difference of that low level. They don't know what they want. If a gal has no clue what they want, and they don't take care of themselves and love themselves, most men aren't attracted to that.
Right. And just to make a quick parallel with that, like think about college. Like people know, well, we're taught that we have to go to college, right? And then you're like, well, what's your major? We're like, I don't know. It's kind of like a parallel where I want to do this thing they call relationships, but I'm in, doing the thing for that, but you have no actual focus on what you're looking to do. And that tells a story of a lot of people, not just with education, but in relationships, just to create a metaphor for it.
Oh, beautiful.
You attract anything and everything when that happens.
Right.
Then it's
and
like,
you change your major every week.
Yeah.
It's just like relationships.
And then you don't want her and you don't want her and you don't like what she does. And so clarity and bringing it, like you said, Jake, getting your intention. Sometimes I think that can be challenging too. It's like people say, well, I don't really know what I want.
Yeah.
You have to go internally and find out where, because this can go trickling back so much further. What were your parents like? If you didn't clean up the energy that you saw around your parents, like there's a lot of people that had parents that got divorces that are now having some challenges because they saw a certain thing. Their brain has been impressed on this is the way it needs to be.
Mm-hmm.
And then you make that decision, or some people make that decision. I know somebody that made that decision really quickly, and it can be traced back to the fact that their parents got a divorce. And it's like, well, I never want to go through that again. So that intention and that decision has already been made. And it doesn't have to be that way, or it can be. I mean, if you make that choice so early on, but when you make that choice, there's an energy behind it also. And you may start attracting people that unconsciously want what you don't want. So it's that, Hank, you describe this well as kind of a, that thing you say where you attract the duality or the opposite duality of what you don't want.
Yeah.
So you have to really clear some of that stuff out when you're embarking on this adventure.
And that's the essence of what people can take from, I think, all these discussions is, and I give props, I give credit to everybody listening to these and other talks, other taking courses, investing in yourself to learn, because there's some ideas that can open up a doorway to transformation for yourself. And working on yourself is one of the most attractive things for men, by the way, women.
Absolutely.
There is, period. Now, you've talked about something really important, which is our past programming and these programs that have been downloaded to us, many times not out of our own conscious choice, but the families we've been born in. And that's another discussion if we've chosen that or not. I feel we have, but
and society just in general. Like I was just thinking, like how often, like just in high school, people are like, oh, he or she is the one. And it's like you have like dozens of relationships before you're gonna, maybe settle down. But
Right. Yeah.
something in our programming, and maybe it's the whole no sex till marriage that's programmed by religion, that you want to have this. So in order to make it okay, you got to agree and align that this is the one. And then we end up staying in relationships way longer than ever intended because of this pressure of society and the belief around sex and no sex and all that.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, the outside influence, society's, structural and the man-made laws of that the box, we've put ourselves in. And but it's fascinating because at the root of attraction, forgetting all those man-made laws, we as men, and I'm speaking as a man today of what I'm attracted to, which is different than last week where I was trying to read your mind based off my experiences of what the females are attracted to. Today is I'm attracted to a woman who, one, loves herself. So that lowest archetype is someone who doesn't love themselves, love thyself. And we always doubt ourselves. We're always growing through our thing. But that next tier, that next thing is of attraction is that best friend, that best friend that, and let me just explain, what that means. And it's not good or bad. Now it's a positive. But here, hear me out for a second. When I hear and see something makes me cringe more than anything. And it's not bad. It's what you want in your longtime partner or your partner. But when I hear, oh, I married my best friend. Oh, I found and married my best friend. Ugh. For me, that never sits good. Like, what do you mean you married your best friend? That to me, that's not right. My best friends. So hear me out for a second. My best friends are someone who I don't have to talk to for a year. Like literally, we go our separate ways. My best friends are people that are all doing their own things, have their own families, have their own lives, businesses, careers, have their own passions. And we come together at different times. And it's like nothing ever passed. Now, if that's what you want out of your relationship, like your love, your intimate, passionate relationship, hey, go. That's fine. You can go your separate ways. You can have your own interest. But I'm married to my wife. I'm married to I have my girlfriend, someone who I don't treat like my best friend. They're above, and not above it, but they're more than that. They're at times my best friend, but it's not my best friend. And what I mean by that is, yes, of course, we all want that intimacy and that compassion when we need that best friend in that relationship. Yet I'm talking about the level of attractiveness. If someone stays as my best friend, and let's say a girl really liked me, for example, or Lisa when dating, when my wife Lisa, when we were dating, she really liked me, right? And I said, you, Lisa, God, you remind me of my sister. You are like, I love you like my sister. You're my sis, buddy. You're like my best friend. I love you so much. Well, I go out. Oh, I'll see you next week anytime. What? Oh, we'll catch up later. Talk to you later. See you next time, whenever. Do you think is that gonna sit right in terms of her wanting to be attractive for me if she wants something more? No. And that's the whole point of this is, so what she had to realize, or she did do, which kept me engaged, was she actually took it to the next level where she was the nurturer, the provider for her own identity. She was actually building her own identity with her personal training and her career. She was independent that way. So I was like, wait a second, this is more than just a best friend. This is that next tier of long-term relationship potential. This is someone who has their own interests, their own passions, their own creativity to create, like we talked about last time. But then here's the next level, and we'll then get into this. I'll finish up the levels. The next level is that the party girl, the one who likes to play and have fun. And I'm not talking about the slut who's out, going and doing all this stuff. I'm talking about someone who likes to have fun, enjoy herself, dress up, look nice, take care of herself, and cut loose once in a while. And that was that attraction. Now, most women think men only want, sometimes that, and they get stuck in that, right? They think that's what they want with just the visual, just the dressing up, the looking sexy, all that stuff. It's not true. Now they may want that. That's attractive. That's up there on the high attractive. But in terms of the top Mrs. We still need a name for this, Dr. K. Help me out, Hank.
I know I have to.
Queen. Well, the queen. Let's just call her the queen. Queen bee, like the one who knows.
Okay.
She knows when to play those different roles in her life with the men in her life.
This is perfect.
So anyway, that's the parallel. I hope I made sense, everybody. But it's true. And what it can, by identifying with this, what you can use it for, and the whole purpose of listening is to hopefully learn something and apply it. But if you're stuck in one of those modes, you can actually change. You can actually do different things to attract different things. Now, here's a law that I forgot to mention last time. It's much easier to identify yourself at the top and then create and identify yourself with people. Meaning it's much easier to come in as that top person with confidence, and being able to identify what you want out of that relationship and then play the role than it is to go up the scale. So if you start as creep or low esteem, it's a little more challenging to go back up. Now you can do that though. It's not impossible and it's doable. Like if you're stuck in friendship mode with your boyfriend or your husband, or you are stuck in party girl, much easier to go and establish, oh, I'm not going out to the clubs tonight. I'm studying for my essay, right? That's okay, boom. Oh, wait, she has priorities. My gosh, that's amazing. Or she's taking care of a family member, or she's going to just stay at home and watch DVD. You want to come over, the best friend stuff. So it's much easier to come in at the top and then identify yourself with new relationships. With existing ones, you just have to learn some of the things to apply and do, and those skills are many different ways to do it. But it doesn't have to be big; it's subtle. It's really subtle. A bad party girl thing is to a guy is saying, "Hey, babe, I want to go out. Let's go out to dinner," or like initiate, like let's go out to that. Let's go to a concert. Can we go to? Let's find a concert or book a concert for the guy to go to, and you guys go something like that, where you're getting out of the comfort zone. You're creating that with the person, or you. Hey, I'm inviting a bunch of friends over, girlfriends, to party. We're going to have a girls' night out. Bye. You're kicked out of the house for the night. What do you mean I'm kicked out of the house for the night? Yep, you have to take the boys, go to a movie or something. What are you talking about, babe? Like we're married, we're old. We don't do this. No, we're doing this. I need it. Okay. That's hot. I love that. That's amazing. That keeps it okay. Well, gosh, is she like out there partying with other guys? Then my own little jealousy and doubts. And no, that's my okay. So that's just an example. I hope I'm making sense. If I'm not, call me crazy. That's okay. It's not the worst thing people said about me in the past. But it's about awareness. It's about awareness and knowing how to do the things as well. And if you don't know how to do some of these things, you can ask fellow person who has a successful marriage, or ask a relationship. Ask Dr. K, ask myself. I mean, I'm not perfect. I'm not, but I'm aware, and that's something I can walk into with confidence, is say, I know what I want, and I know when I'm stuck in a certain area and I've been burning the midnight oil at the office all night, or at work all day, all night, not taking time to play these other roles in the relationship that hold the attraction level.
And well, one, you and Dr. K can get together and probably put all this in a nice little book and put it out there. But one thing to expand on all this, like you have all these stereotypes, but the other thing would be that for each one of these, you could probably look at it as there's a skilled and there's an unskilled application, or you could call it a lower harmonic and a higher harmonic. For example, the one where you said like someone's doing something, oh wow, they have priorities. Well, there the lower harmonic would be, they're being selfish. They're putting what their priorities ahead of other people's at other people's expense versus being self first, advocating for what you're choosing, but being blue ocean about it, where it's not impacting somebody else's choices. So there's also maybe a deeper dive that you could look at for that.
Oh no, well said. And we even talked about that. Dr. K and I talked about that. How these stereotypes are like, really, they're not reality. Okay, there's always these scales, but that yin and yang, that high and low frequency, and that resonance you spoke of for each of these is true. And if you notice, though, what you just said, Hank, is the way the other person perceives your decisions too,
right?
As high or low. There's two. It takes two to tango here. It's a dance. It's a dance. And I've had this happen, where someone will say, no, I'm not going out with you now. I got to do this. I take that as not, oh my gosh, that's empowering. They're great.
Right.
You don't like me. And that's my own insecurities coming into play there. So the key is this: you will attract, yes, you can attract the opposite, but also like attracts like. So the more you work on yourself, I'm a firm believer that you will attract to your frequency level, right? So if you work on yourself and continue to take care of your physical body, you go on your runs or walks, yoga, or your workouts, you eat good food, you fill your mind and your psyche and your mental and spiritual and psychological body with positive intention, positive music, and food for that. What you're going to do is you're going to then raise that vibration to a level where, the low vibrating frequency, and that was the harmonics, that lower harmonic frequency of the low fear and doubt and insecurity of that lower archetype, that really you won't even really look there. It won't attract, and you won't find that really. You're going to find the people who are up in that level with you, which makes it easier, of course, when someone is understanding, when someone knows what they want and all that. So.
Well, and this is kind of getting into more metaphysics. I often, in many of my streams, I talk about the greatest truths of the universe are paradoxes, and the reason for that is one is a truth in the duality and how the duality works, and one is true from the place of oneality. So when opposites attract, that's a duality truth, and if you're choosing from the place of looking at everything around you as separate, whatever you put out, the opposite will show up first. And they use an example of, if you're putting out you want Mr. and Mrs. Right, but you haven't started to do all those self-actualization things and recognizing that we're all like one part of oneness or whatnot, Mr. or Mrs. Wrong show up first. And the other part of that is that in order to know experientially what Mr. and Mrs. Right is, you have to have had the opposite first to know it contextually. That's just how duality works. But from a oneality standpoint, recognizing, hey, we're all one, then like attracts like. And that's where, if you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, when you start to get to self-actualization, at that point, you are functioning way more from that oneality point. And it's not black and white. This is a huge gray area, because you might be very oneality in one area of your life and very duality in another area of your life. So you're doing both simultaneously all the time based on where you're at in many different levels. But like I said, that's getting a little bit more metaphysical than just talking about relationships.
Well, yes and no. I mean, yes. And that's beautifully said, Hank, beautifully said. That yet, as you go up the Maslow's hierarchy of needs to that self-realization and that spiritual enlightenment, there's a translation of awareness for which you are able to then manifest, ask for what you want, know what you want, and set those standards, and you attract that. So I think it directly translates to the real world. But you're right. A lot of us have to learn through experience and the duality of what works and what doesn't. And I'm no different. I've had to learn that the hard way, of how to show up and be there, but also what I'm attracted to as well. So again, attraction is unique, but remember, I think it is so important for men and women to identify and know what they want. I think that's okay to want something. And floating around with the unknown and uncertainty will, I think, attract that back. Yeah,
I have a thought on that. Sometimes what I've found in my experience and from friends and people around me, they have an intention of what they want, yet what's going on in the inside has not been cleaned up. So an interesting thing that I have found that happens, and it's happened to me in my past, is I'm at a certain level here and I tend to attract that person underneath that's just beyond that lower frequency. And I think sometimes people, they unconsciously know like you're what they want, but they're at a lower frequency. So it's like they want to get up to that higher frequency and you are that higher frequency. So they try to get to that level. This has happened to me sometimes. And the other theory that I see a lot of is people end up marrying their mom or their dad, whoever they did not go through that lesson yet. But I've seen this a lot with some clients too. It's like they tend to marry their mom or they tend to marry their dad. And I see that a lot. So I don't know if you have any thoughts on that. That kind of, I don't know if that really, that doesn't fall into the archetypes. We have to create a branch of an archetype.
Well, no, I think it does. I think it does because, you know, what I think
we name that.
what in that circumstance, that story, for example, I can only use my own experiences. I can I can create all these assumptions and stuff, but from my own life, I think that, and it doesn't need that's not always a negative thing either. Meaning finding are you okay there, Dr. K?
I am. My cat is walking around knocking everything off of my computer as always.
I saw this the black
two times.
But for example, I think you know, in the positive side of that, I think Lisa found some traits in me that she loved of her dad, of her father. And to me, that's the greatest honor and the most that makes me so attracted that she would put me in that category, because Ken is amazing. You know, he's a great father, great. Now on the other side of the spectrum, I think I know you're right, because I've got friends, family that have done exactly what you said. They've attracted that dysfunction.
Well, not in a positive way.
No, right.
They're trying to get they did not get the love from mom or dad. So they're trying now to get that from, or maybe from both parents. And now they're that's a lesson that their soul is trying to get from their current girlfriend, boyfriend, spouse. And it's kind of like not working out so great because it's a constant reach.
And I think it goes back to kind of mama's boy in a way, in terms of there's a level of and someone said this to me the other day or a few years ago. It was perfect, that just because you're old doesn't mean you've grown up, doesn't mean you've matured. And I think some people haven't. Some people haven't come to adulthood to realize now they need to be accountable and responsible for how they show up in the world and what they manifest and create. And I think that the passiveness, and like you said, someone waiting to be taken care of, or for example, a gal wanting to be, the money is the only thing important. That long-term relationship guys, all they really care about, they realize their other needs aren't as important or need to be met. They'll find that and that's what they're looking for. Or they want just the party guy, the guy who's perfect, the model, the you know, yet he has nothing else, you know, there, or he's lacking, and he cheats, he ditches them, he plays with the games, he's got 10 different girlfriends, but he's perfect. He's perfect in the image, and that's what they keep going to because that's what they want.
It's interesting. It is,
And the guys too, the guys who date the princesses, the ones who want who expect the guy to do everything, pay the bills, pay everything, take care of them, buy them gifts. And here's something else I want to bring up, and that's really important. And I thought of it, I forgot about it earlier, but Hank, you reminded me when talking about the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And at the top of that paradigm, that pyramid is, self-awareness and awareness and connection. And with that, you start to identify with that individual, because we want to remove the boxes now, but each individual has their different love languages that speak to them, that nurture them. And I think it also applies to the mama's boy or the ones who have that dysfunction in relationship. Maybe they didn't get gifts. Maybe they didn't get a praise. Maybe they didn't get physical touch. Maybe they did. So what we have to do is not give. If you want to keep a relationship healthy, you have to be aware. You got to listen. You really have to put yourself outside yourself of what you think they want and what will be attracted, to actually listen, to hear and learn and witness what serves them and nurtures them in love. And it, again, and those love languages can be a lot of different things, from physical touch to praise to material gifts, to these different, all are nice, but you may be wanting touch, giving your partner a massage all the time. He doesn't care. He just wants to be told he's doing a great job. Listen to that for your men. What keeps us attracted, for me, is recognition from my loved ones sometimes, because I don't get it a lot. So when my wife says, honey, you're doing a phenomenal job, keep up the good work. Keep up the good work. I'm so proud of you for being passionate about what you do and showing up and providing for us. My gosh, melted. Are you kidding me? I feel like a king. I feel like a king. She didn't have to touch me. She didn't have to give me a blowjob. She didn't have to do anything. She didn't have to, no. She had to just nurture my little weak male ego and tell me.
That's for a lot of men. I heard that from somebody yesterday too. It's like, if you just start to tell your guy thank you more, they start to do more. It's a really interesting thing that starts happening.
And it's our ego. It's our ego that we as men need to learn to have a healthy relationship with and put it in check. And but recognition. Now I understand too with Lisa. I can use that example. For her, it's it's kindness. When I'm not aggressive and alpha male kind of, and I'm anxious about work and stuff, and she likes that because she knows I'm driven. But when it comes to, it's kindness, but it's also security. Making sure the bills are paid and billed, and it's not about pretentious materialism. It's more along the lines of, that's a way she feels love, is by knowing that I'm proactive in thinking of those things. Does that make sense? I mean, I'm not talking about, she is not actual materialistic at all. She doesn't expect big gifts, big things, very humble, very, very, but when it comes to the life stuff, for her, that's a love, that's a way I show love that meets her needs. Also, and physical touch for both of us is important. We're lacking in that. I think human beings as a whole are touch deficient when it comes more so now than ever with what we're doing, and the virtual, but with our loved ones and our relationships. And this goes beyond the sexual relationships, everyone. This is your kids, your family, your parents. Give them a hug if you can. Rub their shoulders. Give them a little 1-2. The touch is something I think that's lacking in the whole society as a whole. And that's a love language I think everybody can do more. Do a guy a favor. Now, I don't know about you, but Lisa doesn't like to rub my feet. I rub her feet all the time. You want to connect with your man? Say, hey, babe, I'm going to give you a foot massage tonight. And he's going to be like, what?
Really? Is that the trick?
It'll be a start. It'll be a start.
That's what I got to start doing? Oh, man.
Where that leads to, I don't know. And I'm not responsible for that. But I just want to say, or just scratch his back without him asking, which I don't know if he will ask, but go up, scratch his back, rub him, kiss his cheek, tell him you're proud of him. That is a way we will be attracted to you.
Stroking the ego.
No. Ego is it. No. That's only. But you got to tell the truth. If he's doing a shitty job at his life, you tell him. Say, the truth is attractive to me, but not stroke his ego. But no matter what he's doing, if he has a job, if he has a career, a passion, or anything, it's more along the lines of acknowledging and validating that he's there.
Everybody wants that.
Stroking. Oh, you're the best, honey. You're the best at everything. Oh, like you got to be sincere and authentic with your words and your actions. But I think sometimes when we get in our daily lives, we take each other for granted, you know.
We do. We absolutely do. That happens so much, especially when kids start happening, and then they leave, and then it's the whole empty nesting syndrome. So I think we need to speak to that. If we have any viewers here that are just, going through that, going towards the end of that, it's important to put yourself first, give yourself some time, and keep working on the inner stuff, as well as giving each other the time to have date night. Because what ends up happening when everybody leaves and you're both sitting at the table staring at each other, because during the time you didn't make that time. And that's really, I'm sure you both can attest to that. I mean, I don't have kids, but
well,
that's important.
Yeah, the big thing is like the relationship isn't something that you get married and you set all this stuff up and then you let it coast. Right. But that's what happens. Like you get your jobs, you get the kids, and there's so many other things going around that your relationship's coasting. And if you know gravity and physics, there's only one way something can coast. That's downhill.
Yeah.
And so it's something where you constantly have to put in attention and intention and make conscious choices of, well, what can we do to create even greater possibilities in this relationship? Because an access concept that I absolutely love, they talk about, well, you want to go from having a relationship where you're separate to having a creationship where you're actually empowering each other to be the most authentic voice you can be in the world. And then it's like this dynamic that occurs where you're both being empowered instead of having to sacrifice. And that is a huge key for me.
A lot of people are sacrificing a lot.
Right.
I see women let themselves, and I say this with utmost respect, but women let themselves go. They have kids, and again, I'm saying with this utmost respect, but they gain weight. They don't find that time to go to the gym for their own.
I got my partner. I don't need to work on that anymore.
Right. I see that happen so much. What do we do when we start dating? We put the makeup on, we get the hair going, we look good. And then when you get into the relationship, like Hank said, it's like, I got the person. I don't got to try anymore. No, it's not. No.
But see, this is a greater underlying issue, though, because everybody's like, I need to do this to what? To attract the other person, to do this for the other person, and they're not doing it for themselves. So what would it look like if you were dressing up and looking pretty and being fit for yourself instead of feel for the need of, I need to do this in order to get this, in order to be that? And so it shows that we have this underlying problem in not just relationships, but with everything that we do, that believing that I need the thing they call money in order to have the thing they call a house, in order to be the thing they call secure, where in reality, from the one-ality perspective, it's the beingness that comes first. I need to be secure.
Always.
And as a way that I can manifest that security in this world, then I have the thing they call the house, and etc. But we have it way backwards in many of the things that we do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and when we coast, like Hank said, when we start letting go of ourselves and then we no longer take care of ourselves, what starts happening in the relationship? The person starts to go search for that party girl, or that party guy. I've seen it happen time and time again. I've had it happen to me when I was younger too. Mm-hmm. That person's no longer attractive. Why? Because they've stopped taking care of themselves. There's not that you have to have that stress is not always a bad thing. Stress is a driver in some senses. You just don't want it you don't want it over the top, flowing over the cup. But when that other person continues to take care of themselves and raise themselves to higher levels and continues to be enthusiastic, that's a constant attraction that continues to maintain. When I see in so many relationships that one or both parties just stop eating well, stop taking care of themselves, stop nurturing the inner being. This is with one or the other start cheating and start going on to what they originally were looking for, right?
Mm-hmm.
Both of you can agree with that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree 100%. And it's cool how you both actually, you talked about the metaphysical, but the what's unfolding when people choose to not co-create. And one of those like not symptoms, but a result of that is you know, when one starts to not take care of themselves for themselves and they're looking for the outside in. But I think taking care of yourself is one of the most sexy things you can do. And it's not just because you look physical and beautiful. And no. It shows that the priority. And think about it, back to the archetypes. What that person is doing is saying, I am, and that's part of that is the party girl isn't the right even. That's part of that archetype up there. But it's that the one willing for self-development, and looking to become better. Someone who's willing to reinvest in themselves to become better. And that includes the physical, the study of food. And that's attractive also for the nurturer, and trickles down almost. So the nurturer, the one who, gosh, she would be just a phenomenal mom. She's got this nurturing side. And back to the mama's boy, they're the ones who are like stuck and looking for that nurture. They've never maybe had, they might have never been nurtured to a level that they've received that. Thus they're looking for it to fill that void. But as a female, that's not your job to nurture and to in terms of if a guy is just, you know, a baby, it's not your job to make him a man. I mean,
other people are never your responsibility. And that's a key point too, for all across the board, not even just for this, not just for relationships. When you've hurt somebody, unless you've done it like intentionally and maliciously, if you've said something and that person took it the wrong way, then there was something inside them that got pushed that needs healing. That's not your responsibility. It is not your, I see this in relationships too. It's like, oh gosh, I can't break up with him because it would just break his heart. And so you stay in this relationship that's toxic, that's hurtful to you, that's pulling your energy, depleting your energy, making you less. And you're not helping the other person because then you're enabling them. Right. So that's a whole other topic, really, just enabling, not being able to let go of somebody when it's time and this isn't working and it's okay. You can always make another choice, but enabling the other person. Oh, I can't break up with John because it's just going to break his heart. I can't break up with Sarah. She might commit suicide. I can't, God, you know, these are big things. And so people stay in these things when that becomes even more toxic. It is never your another person's soul is never your responsibility. And sometimes leaving somebody is the greatest gift you can give them. I mean, because it will force them to move into the direction they need to.
When I worked at the bank, I was in banking for about 10 years, and there was one of my colleagues who he came in, he was just, you could tell that he went through something, and he told us that he was getting a divorce. I'm like, well, haven't you been complaining about your relationship for like the last year? And he's like, well, yeah. And I'm like, well, congratulations. and when I said that, like it dumbfounded him for a moment, but he's like, you know, you're right.
Yeah.
And then he was like, it totally changed his point of view around it. He actually found great solace in it. But just in that moment, because we feel that it was done to us and we have the victim mode that this person chose this against my will. Well, really, it was me asking the universe for that desperately for a year. and now it finally happened. And now I'm upset.
You're being given what you asked for.
Yeah.
Be careful. Yeah. Be careful what you ask for. And be intentional for what you ask for. But back to what you were saying, Dr. K, is when someone does give you that gift of freedom to learn and to reflect, a lot of people can go then, or even during the relationship, we see this all the time, people find it in someone else. They're continuously looking outside themselves for happiness, right? They're
that's a huge key point.
They're either cheating, they're either leaving someone before. Like, my suggestion is to take a break, learn to live with yourself first, learn to live and grow and be present with yourself, because you really, I love the co-creation. That's part of a successful relationship. Yet co-create means there's two parties here, co-captains, and so you're individuals who've chosen made a conscious choice to take on that day together and take on that life together. And it does take those two conscious beings to choose that. And so what happens when what's sad and is reality is sometimes one person does not choose consciously anymore to do that. And that happens. That's light. That's part of our existence. And that's the hardest part about relationships, I feel, is when one wants something when the other doesn't. These archetypes are helping to stimulate and create ways, and just quick little references, so you're able to continue to maintain that attractiveness for your partners, partners, however you choose to live your life. But it's not all end all say all either. And there's heartache in the world. There's times when your loved one chooses not to love themselves anymore, and chooses not to love the family, you, and how, what would you recommend, Dr. K and Hank, when that happens in a relationship, in life, and even from maybe your own experiences? Or I'm just curious, because I've got ways I've coped with that, where I've overcorrected and gone the opposite way when someone didn't choose me. Well, then I didn't choose anybody, right? I said, screw it. I'm going to be bad boy. This is like back in college. I had my heart broken. Now there's no one's getting my heart.
Course correction, right?
Overcorrection. So what are your thoughts on that, when sometimes someone chooses consciously, and whether they tell you or not, you can tell when someone chooses not to love you, right? It's like pretty apparent. But how do you guys cope and deal with that? Or what's your recommendation for the audience who may be struggling with that right now?
Well, I think one thing that I see a lot of, there's a deeper understanding and a deeper lesson in this, that sometimes when our lesson is learned with somebody and it's done, it ends. I have a very dear friend who was in a very long relationship, and I just feel for her, but the other party actually gave her all the signs in the beginning that she maybe didn't quite accept. I'm not sure about that there, but she's still hanging on. He broke up with her, and she's still hanging on to the energy, but yet I see what's going on. It was, she had stopped taking care of herself and taking care of the well-being, and the universe was now giving her an opportunity, because now is the time for huge opportunities. I mean, like, the energy is really high right now. So if you wanted to do something in life, and really now is a great time for that, to manifest that. So the universe gave her an opportunity to step into herself more fully. And sometimes that happens, yet we don't see that. And it's painful. And I'm not discrediting the discomfort, but it's kind of like, you got to sit down and say, okay, what did I do here? Where did I not take care of myself that this kind of created? Maybe it is time for me to move on. I don't know if that's really answering the question.
No,
it is. When you overcorrect, it's usually I'm thinking like you're missing the point, because the relationship may have ended. It may, as you start to take care of yourself, I've also seen relationships reignite. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. If you correct properly, sometimes they reignite, but sometimes that lesson is just done. And that's kind of what I'm hearing as we're talking. That lesson, that person is done, yet we hang on to that pain. That cord has to be cut so that you can move on. And I've gone through that myself. And it was a year of a lot of internal work, a lot. But now looking back, it was the greatest gift. And that relationship then reignited, and it got cut off again, and that lesson's done. That was an 18-year-long lesson of self-love. And guys, sorry, that was painful. It was an 18-year-long lesson because I didn't listen. So that's my take on that. But I'll let Hank.
No, thank you.
And every time, every situation's a little bit different, but I feel that a lot of cases, the person might have already had those underlying seeds of not really loving themselves. And when you're in a relationship and you have a family dynamic, you're in a place where you're comfortable to be you, even if that you isn't a healthy you. And it just kind of unfolds. And then what do you do about it? Well, one, don't try to change the person, because physics tells us for every action, there's an equal opposite reaction. So if you feel that the relationship or the creationship is worthwhile, and that there's possibilities that are still there, the question is, what space could I hold to give them the ability to choose differently? Because once you try to change them, there's always that friction, that opposition or whatnot. But what could I do to hold the space for them to choose different? And you may need counseling or to have, I've done a little bit of marriage counseling in my coaching business, and it is not fun, but it was very successful in the fact that there are ways to get the person there if they just have a little bit of willingness to look at it.
The willingness.
Yeah.
Yep.
If they don't have the willingness, then the analogy I use is, well, you might have two pots in a plant, and sometimes the healthiest thing for those plants is to have their own pots at that point. And it's not a wrongness; it's just that you grew this way.
Yeah.
And that's a hard choice because we have ingrained in our belief system from churches and other things, at least in the States, till death do us part.
You're locked
Right.
in, and that's not true. I mean, it's just we put such a box around that, and it makes relationships so much more difficult. You're not an allowance to let the universe do what it needs to do and let people grow as they need to grow. And there's so much karmic stuff that runs here too. Don't forget, like way back, like all this stuff got imprinted over time. The man is the hunter, the killer, the one who fights the battles. The woman needs to look pretty all the time. This is a karmic thing. If we don't look pretty, if we don't provide for the family, if we're not fitting that role, we don't have a husband. And years ago, if you didn't have a husband as a woman, not in today's day, you couldn't survive. Like you needed that or you die, because the husband over time is what provided. And so that has been karmically carried through. And so sometimes when I see a lot, and this is just an unconscious thing that runs, like we need to look perfect so we can attract the man. That has run through the lines through years until we kind of correct that. It's changing, but
that makes me think of the one other big thing that where a lot of relationships end up having hiccups is if you have the point of view that you need this other person in order to be complete versus being already complete and having someone that you have a ability to share your creation of the world with. There are two totally different dynamics, because if you feel that you're incomplete, it doesn't matter what relationship you have, that's always going to be there because you haven't gotten okay with you yet. And that's a big thing in a lot of
point.
Yeah,
so being okay with you.
Very important. I mean, that's the crux of it. And something that I think we all the listeners can be reminded of. You know this already, and a lot of this information I feel the listeners know. It's just being stated in different words, in different phrases, in different kind of mindsets. You guys know all this already. This is something I think you all understand. But something I want to remind everybody of is that each day you have conscious choice. Each day you can choose how you act, how you love, how you relate, and how you show up for your partner. And that's in your control. That's a gift that the creative force, the creation force, God, however you want to look at that, has empowered in our human condition. We have that choice. You can create the relationship you want. You really can. Is it with that individual? Well, if they're willing to step up and do the same and have that same mindset, then yes, it is. If they're not, and they're stuck in their own boxes and fears and stuff, maybe it's time to reevaluate and see if that's the best for them and you. And that's okay too. You brought up a great point, Adriana, with the, times are shifting. There's still regarding what that means as a relationship in society. And I'm pretty traditional. I love being in my role as a father and a husband. But there's also times when I need to let those roles shift, and I do play Mr. Mom, and I'm okay with that. Hey, babe, go out, work on your blog, work on your thing, go out, chase your dreams. I will. And so that's the whole essence of these archetypes, is that it's not about being stuck and, oh, bad boy, bad girl, that's where you want to stay. No, it's about learning to play the roles of a relationship when you need to, and identify and being conscious of that. And as a female, knowing when you need to invest in yourself, when you need to give, when you need to, it's a dance, and it's not a perfect dance, but hopefully these can help give you some frameworks so you can say, you know what, I've been stuck in best friend mode with my husband. My gosh, you know what, I'm going to do something spontaneous, and that, and throw a monkey wrench in it for a day, and that's okay. So go ahead, Hank. I know you were going to say something there.
Oh, no, I'm just being mindful of the time. That's all.
Okay, yeah, and I need to get going here in a few minutes. Perfect, yeah.
And I know there were a few comments, and my apologies. We were just kind of on a roll, so we didn't bring the comments up, really. So maybe we'll start with some questions from this next time or whatnot. But just to bring up really quick, if you want to find out more about Jake, I almost called you Mark again because I saw a comment from Mark.
Mark, I love Mark. What's up, Mark?
His new
Mark and I
name,
chatted
Mark.
a little bit.
Yeah. But Jake's website is whitedoveglobal.com if you want to find out about more about him. And if you're interested in Dr. K and my clinic, we are doing that on the first and third Monday of every month. I have the link up on my website while I'm working on the new center website, but you can go to hanksettle.com and you can find it. I think it's on Dr. K's site too, integrativehealthmanagement.com. You can find it there. All right. But thank you, everyone. This was great. And we will get to your questions next time, hopefully.
Awesome. Thanks, Dr. K. Have a great day. I'll talk to you guys soon.
Okay.
Yep. Take care, everyone. And there's 4 parts to this relationship. Go back and check it out on the YouTube channel. You can catch it all up.
Got you guys thinking and changing a little bit.
Absolutely. All right, everyone. Take care.
Take care.